What it is and what it do, and welcome into a brand new, very late edition of Max Football Podcast. I am your host, Moses Marquez, and you may recognize me from the little show that I did called An American Talking Tottenham. You may recognize us from some of the previous, or I should say myself, from some of the previous episodes we've done right here on the Max Football Pod, and of course, you may recognize me from the wrestling side here of the Max Wrestling Facebook page, or YouTube page, excuse me. But what, in due time, we'll eventually get our own page, but for now, we got to talk Spurs. I have to do it. I'm absolutely flabbergasted, distraught. I'm at a loss. I am at a loss. There's not many other words I can use to put into the feelings that I have coming out of this game. And it seems to be that there's a lot more optimism than there is negativity. Now, with the optimism, and that's something I'm going to be going through here little by little as much as I can. I'm going to talk about some of the positives. I'm going to talk about some of the things that we should feel happy about. But then at the same time, we're going through a few things that are obviously on everybody's mind as much of the negative manner. So as you all can tell from the lovely graphic that you saw before the screen popped up, we lost. Back-to-back lack of results. Coming out of the Prem, we lost against Bournemouth, so back-to-back losses on the bounce, 2 on the bounce, and then we just lost to Chelsea. And now there's a lot of hardcore Spurs supporters that would have told you right off the bat that there's no way that we were even going to get past Chelsea in the first place. But the reality is we felt like there could have been some sort of momentum, something worth a while to make us at least have an opportunity to give these guys a real fight, to give them a real fight and make it worth the damn. And yes, we only lost by a goal, but we were up 2-0 in the first 15 minutes. And then we decide to do what we always do, or at least the players of Tottenham always seem to do, and that's once we get a big or a decent lead, we get our foot directly off the gas, we go into cruise control, and we turn into our grandmothers. Now, with that being said, 2 goals in the first 15 minutes, we looked absolutely dangerous. We looked compelling. We looked threatening. We looked like we were the better team for the first 15 to 20 minutes. But due to lack of changes and a few other things, we had another result that none of us wanted. So the Ange out is all over the place. I'm kind of back and forth. But I got some realizations that I feel like we all need to come to terms with. So let's start with the very first one that I have. Let's start with, I guess in this instance, number 5. Number 5 is our back line is dreadful. It's terrible. It's god-awful. We seriously lack depth in the worst possible way, especially on the defensive side. It's only gotten worse to now the injury to Ben Davis. Mickey van der Ven, Romero both came back, were obviously rushed, and you can tell that they were rushed. Apparently, according to Ange Postecoglou, Mickey van der Ven was only going to get about 60 to 65 minutes in anyway, and well, it doesn't even seem to be that he got that because he pulled up with a hamstring injury. Again, the same injury that we were worried about. So it's obviously not fully recovered. And then we've had to deal with the hodgepodge, if you will, the makeshift. What can we do to get center backs in there? So we have Radu Dragusin, who we went out of our way to go get last season, fought Bayern Munich for him. We all kept saying he wasn't getting enough playing time, and now that he's got enough playing time, he's not a center back that fits Ange Postecoglou's system. He is not a guy that can control the ball and get it out. He cannot play from the back. Defensively, he's sound. He cannot play out of the back. And with, like I said, Ben Davis being out for the foreseeable future with a possible major hamstring injury in his own right, that leaves us with simply Archie Gray at center back. And I remember a lot of Tottenham supporters being over the top excited about this kid being brought in because it was another addition to the midfield. This was going to be a guy that we thought, yes, he was coming from the Championship, which is a lower division, but we had an idea, we had a feeling, if you will, that he would be he would be the solution to our number 6. And now, he's never really even gotten a chance to play in the midfield for us. I think he's had minutes, just pure minutes, during the Europa League where he played in the midfield. And he should never, ever play center back ever again. I don't care how versatile you feel he may be. It's just not it. I speak about Radu Dragusin, and I remember, it was talks last year that he was possibly going to be the guy to just replace Romero, because we felt like Romero was going to be so good that we'd eventually have to get rid of him. And now we fast forward to this year, and Christian Romero has been plagued by injuries, has been plagued by bad play, has been plagued by everything that is against him. There was rumors not but a month ago where he could easily have been on his way out to Real Madrid, where they were trying to shoot offers in the 80 millions. Now, with that being said, do it. Yeah, I'm in that kind of mood today, and you'll tell from the other camera frame when I'm not in that kind of mood. But for right now, Christian Romero has done nothing for us. He's done nothing positive. He's done more positive with an Argentina shirt on than he has with Spurs shirt on. And that, to me, is unacceptable. 100% unacceptable. He's out of place, losing the ball too easy, giving his defenders way too much space. Way too much space, getting turned around too easily. And because of that, I feel like if Real Madrid wants him for an 80 mil, we do it. We can immediately turn around and bring in some replacements. Speaking of other guys that I feel that can immediately be replaced, Pedro Porro's having one of the worst years he's had since being in Spurs. Now, with that being said, I got to kind of come over here, and I have to be positive about it, because the reality of the matter is Pedro had one of his better games today. He finally looked like the Pedro of old. However, I have to bring this up because I really don't know how many people really understand this. He's a wingback. His ability to play defense is lackluster, to say the least, and it's starting to show. But in our attacking form, he's been helpful. So maybe there's still room on the team for Pedro Porro, and maybe there's still room on the team for a guy like Destiny Udogie. But for right now, Destiny Udogie is one guy that should have been sat and meant to sat for a long period of time, for weeks now. He is not the same Destiny Udogie that we saw last season, where he absolutely looked like the best fullback in the Premier League, where he was in everyone's starting 11. And I'm not just talking about the first 10 games of the season. It was up until he got that hamstring injury, which led to hamstring surgery. And due to that hamstring surgery, he has fallen off. His pace is not there. His ability to maintain is not there. His ability to go up is all right, but he's slow. And then to make matters even more so worse, his defending has been abysmal since last year and has only gotten worse. And so I'm begging anyone who's listening to this, get this to Ange and tell him Jed Spence absolutely needs to start. I bring up all these injuries and I bring up all these things, the whole entire back line, because the reality of the matter is it's frustrating play. And now we have had the idea of possibly running with a back three, maybe somebody like a Porro, a Dragusin, and an Udogie or a Van der Ven. We have many other ways that we could switch it up and turn around and make this defensive line something worth a damn. Right now, it's purely not. And I feel like there needs to be new blood brought in. There needs to be depth brought in, true depth, not guys out of the academy. And not guys coming from the championship league or from some BS league somewhere else. Now, with that being said, there are some BS leagues that are a little bit better than I'm giving them credit. One of the guys that I'm really looking into is Patrick Dorgu. And I'm probably butchering his name, and I apologize for that. But he is a fullback who can also play in the center back position. He plays in France currently, and he seems to be he could be like an excellent addition. He could be a guy that we were looking for that could actually pair in the middle right there with a Mickey Van der Ven, and we'd have two guys with not only pace but defensive ability that could probably completely ensure our center back side, if you will, for the foreseeable future. And then that way we can address fullbacks accordingly. Or again, maybe it's a Van der Ven, Radu Dragusin type of thing, and instead of Udogie on the left side, it's Patrick. Maybe it's something like that. The idea I have is there's a bunch. There's a bunch of them that need to be made. Destiny Udogie needs to be replaced immediately. Pedro Porro, his time at fullback needs to be minimized. There should be no more Archie Gray at center back. I don't give a damn I do not give a damn what the injuries look like. He is not a quality center back. He is not somebody that we can have starting week in and week out in the Premier League. In the Europa League, I guess. And that is a huge I guess. But having him start at center back in the Premier League is an absolute no-no. We cannot do it ever again. Covered Destiny and how I feel like he can already be replaced. Now, I want to jump into another one. And yeah, he got a goal today, and he's slowly been picking up. But I think it's time for all of us to swallow that extremely rough pill. And that is Dominic Solanke is not Harry Kane. Now, nobody's going to be Harry Kane. Nobody's going to be able to replace Harry Kane and what he's done for Spurs, let alone England. It's just not going to happen. Nobody's going to be on that upper echelon unless we decide we want to pay in the 80, 90 millions, 100 millions to get somebody to replace him. But again, as I keep saying, that doesn't mean we can replace him. He was a true cog piece to the Tottenham Hotspur. And now that he's gone, there's just not a lot we can do about it. But we went out and we got Dom. Dom's been very good, and he does what he does well. And he's an excellent guy in the pressing field. He's a great dude with hold-up play. But there's times where I look at him, and I feel like you're a glorified midfielder. You're a 10 with the ability to shoot. And for me, that's not a striker. Now, again, I keep saying these things as if I'm the guy in charge, and I'm not. But to me, Dominic Solanke, it may be coming into his own, but there's times too where I look at him and I think you're a glorified midfielder and we need somebody who's truly a striker, a true striker. And now let me bring up some of these numbers for those who are like, oh, you're going to give him guff and this and that. 2 years into being at AFC Bournemouth, and he was on the bench, getting 3 goals in 9 games. His first season as the actual ace in the middle, if you will, the true number 9. He went back-to-back seasons with double-digit goals, 15 in 2020 and 2021, and then the following year with 29. Now, again, this was during their time when they were relegated and down in the championship. So, with that being said, it's going to be a curve for him to turn around and start getting double-digit goals here at Spurs. It's going to give him time, and he's going to need time. But at the same time, we don't have anybody else to cover for him in case he's tired or needs a rest or anybody to replace him to change the dynamic, the momentum, the whatever. The fact of the matter is it looked like Richarlison, well, it's time to call it what it is. It's time to call a spade a spade. And Richarlison is one of the most injury-prone guys I have seen in this sport, let alone in other sports. He gets hurt more than American football players. The guy comes in, gets an assist, hurt himself. Came in, ran for a little bit, hurt himself. Got hurt in training. It is time for the Richarlison project to come to an end. Sell him. I don't care whether it be to Saudi Arabia. I don't care if it's to Scotland. I don't care if it's to America. And he goes to the dang MLS and signs with LAFC for all I care. Or hell, even my new soon-to-be hometown team in San Diego FC. Whatever. The fact of the matter is he needs to go away. He needs to go away today. And with that being said, I kind of have to point some blame at Daniel Levy for not going out of his way to get proper players. You know, there was times where we were linked with the Victor Gyökeres last year, and we didn't even attempt to go after him. And now, the guy at one point was a £100 million player. It looks like he's more affordable, 65, 70. Are we making bids? No. Are we going to even anticipate it? Absolutely not. When we wanted to go after Conor Gallagher, and he could have been an impactful part of our midfield, maybe allowing us to figure out that Kulu was a better midfielder beforehand, all he wanted to do was be our highest paid player. We told him no, so he left. Eberechi Eze wanted to get paid, and he could have been a dynamic piece for us. He could have been a guy who we have right now because of all the wingers that we have going down. He could be a guy that could play up at the front if we needed him to, but we didn't want to pull the trigger and pay him his money. That seems to be the Daniel Levy way. We don't want to pay the money. Well, Daniel, with that being said, I'm going to say this super nicely. January is but days away. Weeks, if you want to get technical. We must, not have to, not want to, not wish we could, we must have an impactful transfer window. Now, I'm not saying go out there and go sign, and I was going to drop a name, our name, like it actually means anything these days, but I'm not saying you need to go sign an upper echelon player. I'm not saying that if we don't sign a Yamin Lamal, if we don't sign a Nico Williams, we're not going to do anything. That's not what I'm saying. It's not at all what I am saying. What I am saying, though, is we need to make impactful moves. We need to sign depth first and foremost. And that starts at the center back position. Preferably, like I say, with Patrick Giroud, I really like the idea of bringing him in because he's a guy that can play both the center back position and a fullback position on both the left and right side. He's a full-blown defensive player. And then at the same time, we can turn around and then with that kind of depth, we can use a Mickey Van der Ven at the fullback position like we've talked about. It's just the ideas are there. We just have to pull the trigger and be able to get fellas like that in. There's talks of us trying to go after a proper number 6. I feel that we don't need to. I feel it's time to either play Archie Gray in that position or stick with what you have. Because Basuma's been okay when he is not on a bad day. And he shows promise every now and again, but then has his moments. But I'm okay with that for the moment. Because we still have to figure out who are we really putting next to Kulu? Who are we really going to put next to James Madison at the 10 spot? Those two positions at the 10 are pretty much, those guys are back-to-back with each other. And I feel like those are great pairings. And the idea that we had for a little bit when we were pairing Madison with Kulu, I liked it. But then we also got exposed off of it. So that means we need somebody who's a little bit better, somebody who's just as pacey and full of running, if you will, like a Pape Matar, and bring in maybe somebody like a Joe Bellingham. You know, the Bellingham genes run deep, and it's somebody that I feel who did well for Birmingham City, and I think could do well for us. Yes, it is a club in the championship, and it is a bit of a downfall, but unless we want to pay the 60 plus, 70 plus $1 million to go get a Nebereze Eze, I feel this is going to be a decent move. And again, it's somebody that we can bring in, we can use, and we can use them all up around the 10 and the 8 spot, which is something similar with the Pape Sarr, something similar with the Basuma. All of our midfielders are very similar in that aspect. But I think the biggest thing outside, no, actually, you know what? Not outside of a goalkeeper. And the reason I'm going to say that, and I want this to be said, and I'm going to say it over here on the nice side, is because the fact of the matter is for those who are in the comment sections, whether it be mine or Bleacher Report or the Tottenham or whatever, it doesn't matter where you're commenting this at. I think you're full of baloney. Fraser Foster is far from an issue for this Tottenham Hotspur team. Far from an issue. Vicario is out with a broken ankle. He's going to be out for the foreseeable future, probably a couple more, at least 7-8 more weeks. And Fraser Foster has stepped in and has not looked like a bad player. He has not looked like a bad keeper. Granted, he gave up 2 penalties. Then again, I don't know many keepers that save penalties. So if you have a guy that saves every goddamn penalty shot his way, please shoot him our name. Shoot the name over to me, and maybe I'll put in a good word. Maybe he'll come sign for Spurs if he's not retired and too old. But Fraser Foster is not a problem for us. However, what is a problem, and it's something that should be addressed immediately, as Chelsea had over, I want to say close to 30 plus shots on goal. We had only 8. And because of that, I truly feel, and I've said this, and I know that there's other people that may agree with me, and there's probably some even more that may disagree with me. We need a striker. Dom was a good move. Richarlison needs to go away. Will Lancashire is fine, but he is not what we need now. Sonny is not a striker for us anymore. He is strictly a left winger and only for the time being. I would not move him anywhere else. Maybe the midfield if I wanted to get crazy, but then even then, I don't know. We need a striker. And the striker on top of my list, on top of the very tippy top of my list, is none other than Jonathan David. And now Jonathan David is somebody that's been talked about with this team since last year. Jonathan David may play in France. He may be a Canadian striker, and that may get him all kinds of guff, but I promise you, since this gentleman joined Lille back in 2020, he started in 138 matches and racked up 82 goals during this time. That's double digits in every year that he's been with Lille. And Spurs need that missing part. We've been missing that part for 2 seasons. The reason I love him so much is he already plays in the system with a high press. He has no issues playing in a system like Ange Ball, and if we decide to actually adjust our formation, maybe then we can get the best out of both him and Dominic Solanke by putting two guys up front. A 4-4-2 formation. Imagine the 4-4-2 formation with the Dominic Solanke with his hold-up ability, his passing ability, his ability to out-physical some players. Imagine that, and then imagine a free-running Jonathan David who can hit from just about anywhere to go in and finish the job. And then when they're all over JD, and we know that Dom can do some magic, he's going to be by himself. And I bring these things up because the 4-4-2 formation can be very helpful when you have the strikers to play in that role. You can overload the midfield, which is something Ange tends to do with the fullbacks. Why not do it like this? Why not make it a little bit more feasible? So I say go get JD, go get Jonathan David. He should be the very, very top of the list. So I've only got a few more minutes left, and I want to get into one that is going to be controversial. And I saved it for last for this reason. And if you would have asked me 2 hours ago, my answer is Ange out. And the reason why I say that is because he's shown time and time again that adjustments are just not a part of his game. Making changes when it matters are not a part of his game. He feels so confidently about certain players that he refuses to change them and then decides to make changes in the 80th plus minute. We go on to score a goal where it's like if you could have did that in the 55th minute, in the 60th minute, maybe that first goal would have led to momentum for a second goal. And maybe instead of us talking about us losing to Chelsea, maybe we drew to Chelsea. Maybe we ended up beating Chelsea if we would have had that momentum at the time when we needed that momentum, that creativity, those new fresh legs. Instead, we wait. But after much consideration and understanding a few things, I'm still very much Ange in. And the reason I'm very much Ange in is why I want everyone to take a serious look at the Premier League table. Now, once you've gotten your very serious look at the Premier League table and you've noticed the teams like a Fulham, like a Forest, like Crystal Palace, like Chelsea, they are nowhere near where they were last year. Bournemouth even. Bournemouth has beaten City and Arsenal at home. They beat us, yet we're furious over it. Come on. We lost to Chelsea, who has scored more goals in the Premier League than anybody else this year and has spent more money on their team than anybody I've ever heard of. So, losing to Chelsea shouldn't really be that bad. Yes, it sucks because it's a derby. Stings. We had 2-0 lead. But you can't beat ourselves up over it. We don't spend $1 billion+ on players. Yeah, we can be upset about Ipswich. I'm still upset about Ipswich. Can't be upset about Fulham. Fulham looks real. They look to be a true team. A team out there for blood. Because of that, still Ange in. I believe in the system. I believe that we have to make real, impactful moves this January transfer window. I feel we need to really go out there and prove that we are a big club. Not sign Brendan Johnson last minute. Not go get a Dominic Solanke just because. Not a Timo Werner because we're desperate for winger help. Real, impactful moves. Guys that are made for positions that are going to be played well. If we can make an impactful move in January, I'm not saying we're going to win the Prem. No. But Europa is very much still in our grasp. The FA Cup, believe it or not, is still relatively in our grasp. The Carabao Cup is still relatively within our grasp. We have a shot at 3 out of the 4 trophies. Still alive in them. But again, impactful moves need to happen. And impactful moves start with players leaving. So, with that being said, Daniel Levy, I hope you hear me and the rest of the Tottenham Hotspur supporters loud and clear. You've got 24 days. Actually, I don't know when the January transfer window opens, so I gave you the 2nd of January. So you've got 24 days to figure out exactly what we need. We need depth on the defensive line. We need a real striker. And most importantly, we need a set-piece coach. We need a set-piece coach. All right, guys, I'm going to get up out of here. I appreciate y'all hanging on. Thank you for joining Max Wrestling. Or, sorry, not Max Wrestling. The Max Football Podcast. Thank you for joining the Max Football Podcast as we went all Spurs on you, which, by the way, for those that are already here and you're excited about it, I will be covering other parts of the Premier League. I will be covering scores and stuff at a different time. Today was about ranting about my Spurs, as you can tell. So, I will be back with some more stuff. Again, we will talk more of the Premier League, but I do want to keep a big main focus on Spurs. So I will be dropping another episode, hopefully tomorrow, talking about 5 guys, 5 players that we should absolutely be looking at vigorously during this January transfer window. And yeah, I already named 2 of them. So you want to know the next 3? Come back on the next episode, which again should drop tomorrow. So we appreciate y'all hanging out with me. We appreciate you stopping by. I'm sorry today sucks the way it is, but tomorrow is a new day. And Thursday is around the corner, and we got another game. So wipe the tears off, chug those pints, get ready for some more anguish next week because we are here for it all. I'll catch y'all next time. Come on, you Spurs.